Hey, good morning, family. It's your girl, Melissa D, Coach Mel, and I'm back for another episode of Virtual Cup of Coffee. So, listen, this is not our first go around. Go grab your cup of coffee, whatever it is you like to drink in the morning to get your day started. This all began just out of a need of staying connected and sharing our stories for inspiration, activation, and motivation during this season. So, tune in as we bring in our guest for this week, Kelvin Troy Johnson, and we activate you to tell your story. You don't want to miss this. Grab a notebook and get ready, baby, because we're going to get activated. So, good morning and welcome. You guys show some hearts and some love to our special guest today. My guest for a virtual cup of coffee this morning, Mr. Kelvin Troy Johnson. Good morning.
Morning, good morning, good morning. Yes, we're here. We're doing
This
it.
is amazing. Thank you. Thank you for meeting me for a cup of coffee this morning. I was sharing with you in a pre-show just as we were prepping that this was my need for connectivity and to share my friends in the business community and people who I would have real life conversations with. So welcome to the Activation Hour virtual cup of coffee.
Yes, well, I'm glad to be here. I'm excited about this opportunity. And I love the way that you have transitioned and made a lemonade out of the lemons that you've thrown. So this is what it's all about. This is what
This
it's
is
all about.
exactly this is exactly what it's about. And I've been watching very closely how different people are going through this pandemic, and there's no necessarily right or wrong way. And for those of us who are creatives and innovators and visionaries, for most of us, this is a time when like the ideas kicked into overdrive. Was that the same for you?
It was absolutely the same for me. I mean, when you're sitting home and you finally have time to do the thing that you said, I'm going to do one day. You
Right,
know, that someday they,
right.
they told me someday Isle is a place that you'll never visit. Well, guess what?
We're here
Someday
now.
I'll is now. Someday I'll do that thing. I'll put those things together. So I went and grabbed all my stuff I had in the garage for the live events. And I don't have my lights on, but I got the party lights plugged up. I put up the backdrop. I set up everything in the studio and revamped the whole studio just because someday I'll came.
I love it. Well, you know what? This is exactly the product of Someday I'll. This was I said, hey, virtual cup of coffee really just it started on my birthday. My birthday was in March. We were really just that's when we were locked down. And I said, I can't have a party, but what I can do is I can meet up with some friends for coffee virtually. And it just sparked. And I think the beauty of it is I believe we'll come out of this better and stronger, like you said, with a lot of the some days checked off of our list. And even if your someday is slowing down to rest, like, hey, someday I'll actually take a nap and know what that feels like. Or someday I'll actually stay home and spend time with my family. Well, whatever it is, there's no guilt about it and no pressure. But I'm so excited because this particular topic for today about finding your voice and telling your story. This is kind of my own personal someday, is because people think just because I'm an extrovert, like this is easy for me. No, creating moments and spaces of transparency like this can be exhausting and cause anxiety for me because I'm like, wait, you want me to tell what? You want me to talk about what? And so
Yeah.
I've challenged myself for radical transparency.
Mm.
Radical transparency in this season. And I see you guys, they are in here. You have really brought the people out this morning, Kelvin Troy Johnson.
I love
Uh,
it. I
you know
love
what?
it.
They are ready. We have some people that are obviously ready to tell their stories. Good morning. Hello, LaDonna from New York. Thank you and welcome to having virtual cup of coffee with us. Good morning, Deech Lynn. Beautiful profile picture. I mean, they're out here, guys. Make sure you drop us a comment here. We want to just shout you out and let the world know that you're in the group with us this morning, having your virtual cup of coffee. I have mine on standby. Um, so let's just jump right into it, Kelvin. You and I, we followed each other on social media and supported and tagged and showed some hearts and likes and stuff. And what I noticed was a shift in like your messaging. I
Mhm.
noticed the shift. You're known all over as the Love Coach Atlanta, guys. Check out the website below. Check him out.
Yeah.
And so I honest transparent radical transparency. My moment of transparency was okay, so cool. He has a great platform and he's a matchmaker. Got it. And then the more I kept watching, I was like, oh, wait, this is deeper than that.
Yes.
This is deeper than that. And I said, oh, wait a minute. Like, before we even get to the love part, there's you got a story. There's a whole lot going on before we even get to that. Who's the
Yes.
person? What's their story? What's the background? Some of us out here trying to change our love story. Come on.
Mhm.
So talk to us a little bit about why this topic was so important to you.
Well, again, I appreciate you having me on to have this talk. I love this conversation, and I even love the radical transparency idea. Melissa, there are people. I came here, and I'm going to talk about the story, your story, but there are people here who have a tremendous story, but they are afraid to tell it because it's embarrassing.
Mm,
And as a branding and business coach, I talk to people who come to me. They say, "Look, Cal, I saw your books. I see your stuff. You know, as I want to hire you as my business coach, and I want to write this book. I got this book in my gut, and I just want to write this book." And I'm like, "Okay, let me ask you a question. Are your parents alive?
mm.
Is your How's your family structure? Because when you finish telling this story, if you're going to tell this story the way I'm going to teach you how to tell this story, your mama may not talk to you when you finish.
Uh-oh.
Your daddy might take some time off, and you might not hear from him for a little while. When you
Uh-oh.
start really peeling back the layers of your real story, um,
Wow. Come on.
that radical transparency. And you know what? Doggone it, one of my clients, I worked together with her. We took her book apart, put it back together, and I call it a brick to the face. The first paragraph was like boom,
Damn.
it was like the action movies. They start with the person chasing them,
Yeah, yeah,
running for
yeah.
their life. It was all like that. And the girl said, when my mother read this book, she literally hasn't talked to me in 6 months. So this radical transparency, there's a price to being willing to
Yes.
be transparent and to share your story, but the heavier price is the people who will not be blessed by your gift.
Oh, wow.
And
There's a
for you to have
price.
to go,
Mm.
yeah, for you to have to go to the grave with this gift inside of you, and the world having never received it. So I said, and when they say, look, I don't care. I'm a grown woman. I'm a grown man. And if they can't take it, too bad. They shouldn't have did it. Now I'm going to talk about it. I say, okay, let's get to work.
Mm-hmm.
And let's
Mm-hmm.
tell the story, And so yeah, my background, Melissa, is in social work. I came from I love the work of social work. I come from a family in ministry. My father's a pastor. My granddaddy was a pastor. Come from just people in ministry, and so I knew I would be serving the people. I knew that was going to be my destiny, serving the people, and so I started in social work. But there were some things I loved about social work, but there were some things I didn't like about social work. I
Mm.
didn't like long hours of doing reports, literally sitting at the light writing up reports.
Wow.
I went to the doctor after working at one of the jobs, and he turned to me and asked me, "Where in the world do you work?" He said, "I took your blood pressure when you're on your day off, and I took your blood pressure when you come from work, and they're like two different people. Your blood pressure's through the
Wow.
roof, and the other thing I didn't like about it was I had to have two jobs, sometimes three jobs. Y'all know what it is. People
Yep.
people who come from the business understand. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you have all of that. But when I decided to begin to share my story, I started doing it as a person. I started listening to Les Brown, and I listened to my father. My father listened to Les Brown since he was a little kid,
Love
when I was
him.
a little kid, and I
Yep,
was
I
growing
grew
up
up
on
with
that
his books
stuff.
in my household too, and my mom listened. It was such an influence on what we're
I,
doing today.
yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I had this idea. I said, you know what? I want to get paid to talk. I
Oh,
want to get
you know
paid to
what?
run my mouth. You
Let
know?
me tell you about that. Let me tell you about that. So I was the type of kid. I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama,
Okay.
and I'm my mom's only child. And so for those of us only kids out there, your imagination can really run rampant. And I'm gonna keep talking here. I lost Kelvin for just a quick second, but I still hear you. I know you're there.
I'm here.
Okay,
I'm here.
so the funny thing is, I was the type of kid, I was a straight A student. I mean, academically on top of it, but I couldn't shut up. Like I was inquisitive. I had all these questions. And I grew up with my great grandmother and my grandmother in the house, and I would interview all their friends, like all these little old ladies, like around the neighborhood. And I would sit on their porches and ask them questions about their lives. And who knew the precocious kid that couldn't shut up would get paid to talk? Like, so your stories I really believe we talked about what this season has been of radical transparency. I also believe that this is a season where we're going to go back to our first love. I believe that there's some childhood desires and dreams and things we were predestined to do, and that's a part of finding your voice. So that's really the first part of our topic. First, you have to find your voice, then you have to tell your story. And some of us have been quiet for so long that we don't even know what the sound of our own voice is like.
Right, right. And it could be scary. It could be very scary to step out and to really just let the world know what's really going on. But the world needs to know.
Right,
The
right,
world needs to
right.
know.
They do. So we're going to keep pushing because I know you're still with me. I'm glad we can still have our conversation. I'm going to actually pull up. You got a lot of comments here going. Deech Lynn said, exactly, telling your story allows you to take your power back. It absolutely does. And that did the number one reason for me. I mean, Kelvin, you mentioned ministry. And even for me, this show began really 3 years ago, almost to the day, almost our anniversary here, but it began as a place to share your story without shame. What your activation hour is, and the activation hour is simply the moment when your story shifts and you know you'll never be the same, some life altering thing. And so, honestly, there you are. Welcome back. Oh, amen. I'm glad we got you.
I'm
So,
here.
yeah, telling your story allows you to take your power back, because what happens is many of you are quiet and your voice has been muted because of guilt and shame and condemnation.
Wow.
And
Yes.
so, Deech Lynn, I'm glad you said it's taking your power back. Literally, like it's almost like you have two choices to make. Either I have to live muted, or I'm gonna offend somebody. It's one of the two. Like I can't. So which hurt can you deal with? Almost like you got to choose, like, how you gonna rip the band-aid off. Either I'm gonna
Mm,
rip the band-aid off and tell this story so I can be free, and then I
yeah.
can let you sort out whatever feelings you have about it, which really aren't my
Yeah.
business anyway.
Yeah.
Or or I can keep it inside to pacify you, and I leave this earth with the truth inside of me. And that is like the scariest thing to me.
Mm, it is. It is. And it's what needs to be done, Melissa. Like it's I really believe it's the beginning of adulthood. Like
Ooh,
you're not really an adult until you can stand and tell your story
ooh.
regardless of the consequences. Like
Say it one more
regardless
time.
of
Say
yeah,
you're not really
yeah,
an
yeah.
adult until
Until you're willing to stand up and tell your story, regardless of the
wow.
consequences.
You know what? I'm no counselor, psychologist. I don't have your credentials, but you know one thing I know to be true, Kelvin, is
Mm.
that typically it's the little child in you that keeps you quiet.
Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah, yes.
I don't want to hurt my mama. I don't want to tell no family business because they say what you and I we come on in our community we say children should be seen and not what
Heard.
heard. And
Absolutely.
so at some point in our adolescence and our childhood, we're told, be quiet. You can't talk right now. You can't question that. Don't
Yeah,
you say that.
yeah,
And that ideology has been so embedded in our mind and in our DNA that then when we grow up, we forget that the adult in me has the power and the right because now I'm not that child. I'm an adult who can be seen and heard.
absolutely, absolutely. And it's listen. I applaud anybody who's willing to stand up and do it. And so as I think about it too, when I had that thought and that prayer that God would bless me with a job where I could tell my story, I literally got hired at a place called Atlantic City Rescue Mission, right?
Yeah.
And I was a men's counselor. So that's actually where the story began for me, recording the stories that men told me, right?
Mm.
Melissa, I didn't know what I was going to do with these stories, but I knew that I had that they were going to be beneficial for me in the future. So I used to literally come to my office with my tape recorder and record the sessions. Like now, if anybody's ever been to the rescue mission, that's not really the environment
Mm-mm.
that yeah, this isn't some high end office place where but listen, I didn't care. I knew I was in the guts, I was in the dirt, and
Wow.
this was the time to record these stories because they were going to be important for the future. So I took that information, the knowledge and those stories that I heard from there, and I began to just share. uh, I went to churches and started sharing it. I went to community centers and started sharing it with the schools and started sharing it. And before I knew it, they started calling me a motivational speaker. Look, I didn't know. Like I was just doing what came to me to do. We started this off with that, right? Like this is the condition we're in. How can we take where we are and make
Yeah.
something out of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that began the process of me starting doing motivational speaking. So I looked at it, I was like, oh man, I guess I'm a motivational speaker. Okay,
We didn't even know that was like a
let,
thing. Like I said, we saw
yeah, and
it all around us, but there's so many nuggets from the story you just told. It's almost like God was setting you up to collide with who you really are. It's like, okay, so you want to tell yours, for you to tell your story, you have to tell the story of other people first.
yes, yes, yes,
What a setup.
yeah, yes it was, and I love the way it unfolded. I looked around, I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do a motivational speaking thing, let me look it up and see what they do. And I noticed something, Melissa. All the motivational speakers that I knew and I started following, they all had this one thing in common.
What's
They
that?
all had a radio show, which to me meant they had their own platform.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I said, well, I guess I gotta get a radio show. How do I get a radio show? I had no idea how to get a radio show. So I looked it up, and I remembered my brothers were on this college radio station, not far from my house when I was a younger kid. And I said, why don't I call and find out how I can get on that radio station? I wasn't even a member of that college. Like I wasn't enrolled in college at that time, but I saw an opportunity and I just started dialing. I jumped on the opportunity that came before me. I hope somebody's taking notes today. Okay, look, we
That's a
dropping
good
them
one.
all the way through. I don't tell people to say write this down.
No,
Just
but
start
yeah,
writing.
write that down. You know what? That's so parallel to Les Brown's story about how he just kept showing up at the radio station. You heard that story before?
Of course.
Yeah. He just
I
kept
could tell
showing
the
up. They
story.
just tell him like, no, no, go away, no. Until finally the one day he showed up and they need like he was needed. So will you keep showing up to the place you know you belong until you know
Yeah,
you're needed? Like at some point, like I want to build a bridge to that story that you just told about yourself and then Les Brown and those who have similar opportunity stories like that.
sure.
Like one of in my community, the Activation Nation, which is my private group, and then like all the people that I serve internationally. You know, the number one fear, especially now that people have of speaking, is like I literally know speakers who can command a crowd of hundreds or thousands at conferences in a room, but there's
Mm,
something about talking to this camera right here where they just like
mm,
shut down. And I was like,
wow.
I don't tell me what it is. And they're like, well, I don't think anybody's watching, or I don't know if I look stupid. So the fear isn't speaking. The fear is your presentation. You're afraid of how you're going to look, or
Yeah,
you're afraid if no one's going to show up for you. So
yeah.
we've mislabeled the fear. The fear isn't speaking because you can
Mm,
speak.
right.
The fear is embarrassment.
Mm, you know what? You got to be ready to just go. You got to be ready to just go. I mean, like, I don't care who the person is. Everybody starts from zero. You start from zero followers. You know,
Everybody does. I mean,
yeah.
unless you're buying followers, that's a different story. But I mean,
True.
hey, some people out here getting it how they can in these internet streets. But you know, everyone
I
starts from
call it
scratch
cheating the game.
and everyone makes mistakes, Kelvin. So you know what set me free, and I want to ask you the same thing. What set me free to tell my story was I asked myself, what's the worst thing that can happen? And then so
Right.
I would make a list, like worst thing that can happen, nobody watches it. Okay, fine. So then I said, well, is the goal for people to watch it, or is the goal for you to finally open up and tell it? I said, well, the goal is just for me to start talking. Okay, we'll get over that. And then the next thing was, well, what if I look stupid, or what if I say something and I mess up or make a mistake? And then I said, well, do they even know what's on my piece of paper? Like, do they know what I'm gonna say or what my speech or story is? No. So they don't know if I messed up unless I tell them I just messed up. So sometimes you
Right.
have to back yourself out of that. And
Mm,
here's the thing, what you and I both know with having our own shows and creating a space to tell our stories and the stories of others is it's not about the actual moment, it's about the replay. It's about what happens after you do it.
absolutely.
Talk about
Absolutely.
that. Like how did you do like what and I know you're like you're Mr. Love Coach Atlanta, you're a motivational speaker, so that confidence is there. But were there hurdles for you in telling your story? How did you figure out how to set this up?
You know what? Yes, and there's
Okay.
still hurdles to telling my story. And so that's something that I want to translate to somebody. Like nobody is perfect at this. You
Right.
know, like you're waiting. I talk to so many people who got the perfection gene, and everything's got to be right, and this has got to be in order, that's got to be in order, and I have to look professional. Look, when I first started sharing my story and sharing what I knew, um, I grabbed the camera and just went to the playground. I went. I'm in the yard. I'm at Starbucks. I'm at
Uh-huh.
uh, Panera Bread,
They didn't
and
have all of
people.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? And people today who follow me now and come to my shows and all of that, and they talk to me privately. They say, you know what? I've been following you a long time. You,
That
you know what
part.
they said, Melissa? You know what they said?
What? What?
I didn't say a word to you all that time, but I've been watching your story.
Wow.
I've been watching your brand, and now I'm
Wow.
ready. Now I'm ready.
Wow. Did y'all catch that? Did y'all catch that?
And guess what?
Oh,
Now I'm ready meant an opportunity for us to work together, and money was exchanged. Hello,
uh-huh. Uh-huh.
okay? An opportunity came, and we worked together. So you don't even know what it is, what's going to happen when you start sharing, but Your story is important. And I have a group that I train of people who are I help them to build their brands from scratch
Yes,
in
you
Platform
do.
Building
Talk
Mastermind.
about it.
Yeah, I brought some of these people together. Some of those same people who are now in my group were some of those people who followed me for years when I was outside in the yard and
Mhm.
outside at the park with my camera,
Yeah.
just sharing. And now I'm taking them through the process of starting from scratch, like no
Mm.
brand, nothing but a story, and we build their whole brand, their whole enterprise off of what happened to them as a kid, what they loved as a kid, what they loved
Mhm.
at college, what they loved what they did in the business, after college, weaving
Mhm.
all of that together, which makes them a unique person and a unique personality that nobody can copy.
Mm.
They become a category of one. I call it an inch
Wow.
wide and a mile deep. you know,
Wow.
and
Wow.
so there's somebody who's listening to us right now. You've got a story that would change the world. You got a story inside of you that's just waiting, but you got to learn how to package it. You got to learn how to promote it, and you got to learn how to profit from it since you're already went through the pain.
Package, promote, and profit from it.
Yes.
But first you have to just get it out. Like just don't let the pretty packaging, like what you see on us today, like you see all the branding and the color scheme and the logos and you're so right about that. Like literally it started with me like going to people's businesses and just turning on my phone and just talking to them, telling like you
Wow.
can't that, and those are the most organic ones. And you know what's really so rewarding, Kelvin, is when we go back down our timelines and we see the history or the evolution of our stories, right? And people say, I remember when. And the point, what I love, what I took from your story of the people who are rocking with you now, you're like, oh, I remember that, is your people are actually waiting for you. There are people who are calibrated to your voice and
Yeah.
your story, but they're calibrated, but they're waiting for your consistency.
Ah, true.
They're waiting for the right moment when they know, okay, you're for real. Like they got to know you're for real about your story before they trust you with their own.
Absolutely. I love that. That
Yeah.
is so true. And I know that to be true because when I shifted from the motivational speaker angle, obviously you can see it's still in me, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
still
Yeah. Yeah.
look. I'm still preaching, and I'm still
It's who
talking
you
that talk.
are.
It's who I am, right?
Yeah.
But when I shifted it towards the relationship space, people were like, "Cal, like what's up with the you're the love doctor?"
Right.
you know, and so but what I was doing was basically still the same thing. I just now
Yeah.
started sharing the secrets and the reasons and the justifications that men have for the things that they've done in relationships.
Oh, you know what? Stop right there. We're gonna come back and talk about that because you're the love doctor. I would be remiss if we didn't have that conversation about stories. Guys, I see you all out there. Y'all are amazing. Shout out to Future Gents. Thank you for jumping on and showing us some love. Samantha, I see you. Thank you so much for jumping on with us this morning. You guys are amazing. We see you tuning in from Facebook, from YouTube. You are simply amazing. We're just going to cut to a quick break. Don't go anywhere. Come right back. Keep sharing your comments and your feedback. Matter of fact, share this with your audience. Share this with your people if you want to help other people share their stories. All right. We're going to cut to a quick break and be back in a few seconds. All right. Listen, we are on a roll today. Coach Kel, aka Kelvin Troy Johnson, aka the Love Coach Atlanta, is in here dropping gems on how to tell your story. And shout out to all of you in our Facebook Live and YouTube live stream community. We see you. Your comments are amazing. We love the energy. We feed off of your good energy this morning. I got caffeine and I got my community. So that's all I need. I'm good. Listen, Kelvin Troy Johnson, if you missed the first half and you're just tuning in with us, today we're talking about activating your voice and finding your voice and telling your story. And so we shared in this first part, like, well, hey, before you get to the story part, what's your voice? What are the things you need to overcome to even know what your voice sounds like? We told our own personal stories and anecdotes about getting there. And a lot of it started with our childhood, right? And some of the best stories come from our childhood. You know, even the best lessons learned are through stories and parables. You know, that's the best form of teaching, as we know. So, Kelvin, before we took a quick break, you were going somewhere, and I'm going to go there. You said that you have now kind of shifted your platform where you're sharing the stories of men. And can you tell us why that was important to you, and how are you doing that? How are you sharing the voices and stories of other men?
Yes. So yeah, I began this process of thinking about how men think. You know, I've always listened for that. I've always kind of found myself amongst the guys. You know, I'm the guys guy. You know,
Mhm.
I'm hanging out, and if I'm standing in front of a restaurant, and this literally happened one time, standing out in front of a restaurant, just getting some air, and a guy walks up to me, and before we're finished, he's told me his whole story, his life story, his relationship story, you know, and stories that he hasn't even told his partner. Okay,
Wow.
and so for whatever reason, I've always found myself listening to men's stories at the church, as a men's ministry coordinator in the fraternity. Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Shout out to the bros,
Shout
you
out to
know.
the good bros. Yeah.
And so always finding myself there. And so when I looked at my platform and I looked at my story, I looked at what was really happening in the world, and actually at the same time I was looking to move geographically from New Jersey. I'm from Atlantic City, New Jersey, born and raised,
All
and
right.
so I decided to move to Atlanta, and I said, you know, what's one of the biggest challenges in Atlanta? And as everybody probably knows, it's relationships. You know, it's dating,
Yeah.
it's relationships, it's marriage, it's divorce, it's breakup, makeup, sex, and all of that. You know,
Yeah.
and so I watched. Listen, here's a little piece that I don't often talk about. But just before I moved,
Uh-huh.
and as I was thinking about what I wanted to do, I went to the movie theater and I watched this movie called Think Like a Man
Remember
by
it. Steve Harvey. Yep.
your
Mm-hmm.
boy Steve Harvey.
Yeah.
Think Like
Yep.
a Man, right? And I'm
Yep.
sitting there in the audience and I'm watching him kind of narrate this story that he took a story that he turned into a book, became the biggest relationship speaker in the
Wow.
world.
Wow.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and all he had was really his whole background is only from his own experiences,
Yes.
his friends' experiences,
Wow.
and he started answering questions on a radio show, telling people what they should do with their with their relationships and all of that. What he
Stories after story after story.
Yeah, Melissa, what he did was all he did was package. That's what we're talking about. He took
Ooh.
what he knew and packaged it in a way that he could deliver it back to the people. And then, Melissa, he multiplied the package. He went from the book to the movie to the tour to live events that he's hosting to a membership program.
Wow.
And so on and so on. There's a few more things that he got from that one little idea and that one opportunity. And so now I'm sitting in the audience of his movie.
Yeah.
And Melissa, I've got real experiences sitting in front of real men
Yes.
doing 25, and this is no exaggeration, doing 25 counseling sessions a day.
Whoa.
A day
Whoa.
for 5 years. For
You
5 years.
I have a
With
question about that. So with the
sure.
you that woo, that's like loaded. You went from okay, it started with a story. The
Yeah.
story became a book, became a movie, became like your story is a whole brand. Like it is there are levels to your story. And some of you, and I'm oh God, even if it's isn't even as I'm about to say it, again, radical transparency is I know that there are stories in me that have to come out because, and I've had people tell me like, look, your story, your book, your story, however you tell it, whether it's your book, your podcast, whatever, it doesn't matter. Whatever medium you use is really the key to unlock the door to the multiple levels in your life. Like it's just a key. It's an entryway. It's like
Yes.
that. It's not really about that one thing. So, okay, you
No.
wrote the book, what's next? Sometimes our view is so limited and we think,
That's
oh,
right.
well, I have to do this one thing, but that one thing unlocks the multiple other things. And we can't get one-sided on what it's really about. And
Yes.
man, listen, and then when you talked about first of all, um, I commend you 25 a day. Like that's has to be exhausting. But what's amazing about that is you have a lot of experience and clarity just by listening a lot to a particular group, to men. And
Men.
our men, particularly in, the Black community, oftentimes are unheard for real.
Yes.
We
Yes.
often, as a woman, one of the most eye-opening lessons I ever learned. I remember, and this was in a ministry group, in a singles ministry group at that. We were trying to plan a conference. And I remember there were two men in this group of like 10 of us. It was like two men and 8 women. And something as simple as a t-shirt color, they said, okay, what do y'all think? And the men had already decided, hey, we want gray. Well, the women were like, well, what about this? And what about this? And what about that? And then we turned around and said, guys, what do you think? We said, oh, we told you at the beginning of the conversation, but y'all weren't listening. And I was like, he's so right. So sometimes what happens is we have to be very careful, women, not to silence the story of our own men. And yet we wonder why our relationships and friendships and partnerships aren't thriving. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Melissa, we ain't got that kind of time.
Okay.
Look, I tell you what. If I put up a post today that says fellas, blah 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 blah, right? I guarantee you, 80% of the people who answer that post are going to be women, and I specifically said fellas. And it's not only that way on social media, it is that way in real life. And
Yeah.
And it's no relationship works without communication. And if
Right.
communication is listening and speaking,
Ah.
and if you're doing all the speaking, you're probably not doing much listening.
Mm.
So
Woo.
it yeah, that and men decide that. You know what? Your example doesn't even surprise me at all.
But
Because
as a woman, it took that man to teach me. First of all, we have to be willing to be taught. And as a woman, like I know, like I've been in a season of unlearning. Like, let me unlearn my bad habits. It like obviously anything I've done in the past hasn't always dynamically worked well. So let me learn from a man what a man wants to know. And so, this is important, guys. We're still talking about stories. Don't miss it. Don't get it twisted. This is important because if we're not willing to hear each other out and hear the story, then you're gonna miss the lesson. If you're
Yes.
not hear the story, you're gonna miss the lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what men do? You know what we do?
What?
We'll, we'll just sit back and just watch you. Like if you don't want to listen, fine. Look, I don't knock anyone else who does relationship talks and who are in this business of relationship talks, but it's okay. I know that 80% of the people who talk about relationships are women, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, I heard one example. A guy says, if you want to learn how to shoot quail, do you go ask another quail or do you go ask the hunter?
Ah.
So, it behoove you if you'd like to know how men think, listen to
Go
men
ask the man.
sometime, and it might
And
get you
vice
somewhere.
versa. Vice
And
versa
vice versa.
for our men. If you want to understand a woman, sit and build solid relationships and communication with a woman. Nurture
Agree.
those friendships and listen and learn.
Agree.
Like I'm so thankful for the men in my life who are truly my brothers who and literally I that's what's happened within the last I say year of my life, Kelvin, is where I I went my mom's gonna kill me, but the radical transparency, right?
That's what
So
we doing today.
I
Tell it.
remember asking my mom, like what does it take for a great relationship to work or marriage? And she was like, I don't know. Like, I've been married 2 times and that didn't work. And then she said, well, you know what? Go. And she started thinking of her own friends who had healthy marriages. And she was like, call so and so. You call your auntie so and so, like our best friend, right? I was like, okay. So she helped me think of, she's like, make a list of couples, like observe these people. So here's the thing, we're still talking about storytelling. I
Mhm.
needed to change my own narrative
Yeah.
through hearing somebody else's story.
Agree.
So the narrative, so your stories will help change and reshape somebody else's narrative.
Absolutely.
So I went and I started just having these conversations with couples, with my guy friends and fraternity brothers and men in the community who I respected. And I asked them, I said, like, bring your girlfriend, bring your wife. I want to talk to both of you. Like, I need to know. And so, like, and what if the story that you want to hear, like for me, I needed to hear a new love story. So I went looking for that story. What if the
Mhm.
story we really want to hear is already inside of us?
Mm. Yes. Did you
So
bring up?
how do
Yeah.
we get to a place? You said something so powerful a moment ago about listening. How sometimes people are afraid because they don't know who's going to listen. How talk about that, like building your audience and finding the people who listen.
Yeah. You know what? That's the beauty of this, and because it's part art and part science is what this is, right?
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's the art is your creativity and your uniqueness just being put out there. Like it's like doing a painting, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just exhale onto the canvas what's inside of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the science is people will come to you as you share. Like your story will attract a certain number of people, a certain kind of people.
Yeah.
But if you don't start sharing your story, no one will find you. You know, one of the things, even with you said that earlier about sharing your story and being afraid that nobody will listen. You know, but they're waiting for consistency. That is so true. Look, when I first started this talking about relationships, people
Yeah.
are like, "Is this just a one time thing, or is this like, is he really going to do it? Do it, right?" Well, after they saw me create a show, they saw
Mm-hmm.
me doing memes, they saw me doing video clips, they saw me constantly cranking out content.
Right.
Then they said, "Oh, well, I guess he's serious."
Right.
And so, Melissa, that's one of the challenges that people have who get started in this journey. They're waiting, they're hoping for an audience, and when they don't see anything happen, they don't see that pop come, they'll say, "Oh, well, I guess that wasn't it." No, no. If it's inside of you to share, you just had to find a better vehicle to
Mhm.
share it. Maybe
Uh,
you need to be maybe you need to be a podcaster.
yeah.
Maybe you do need to be on video and show. I'll listen for this. Here go a quick tip, Melissa. For the
Okay.
ladies, I tell the
Mhm.
ladies, all of y'all need to be on video.
Okay. Why?
There is something about the female energy. Female energy is attractive. Um, in this thing right here, me and you are side by side, right?
Hmm.
People came on, and the first thing they're gonna look at is you, and then they're gonna look
Okay.
at me, and then they're gonna look back at you. And now look, so I got to be all animated. Look, I got to be all, I gotta turn it up a notch to be able to just come up to the capturing the attention that you just naturally capture when you just show up. So the name of this game is to use whatever you have
Use what you have.
to get the attention you need to share your story.
Wow. Start where you are. Use what you have to get the attention you need, and start like the kids to start. Use what you.
Just start.
And here's the thing, like, come on, like these tools. I can't. I'm so glad that we're here in the earth for this particular time.
Me too.
Like, when else?
Me too.
Like 3 years ago, I would not have been equipped to run. Like, I have a whole production studio in my office, but 3 years ago, I was having to pay somebody else for the space to do that. And matter of fact, you don't even need all of this. This thing right here is powerful.
That's it.
You can run a whole business, a network, a show, a podcast. You got Anchor. You don't need all this extra stuff. And sometimes people will ask me all the time, and you probably get this too. Well, what software are you using? What streaming equipment? Who's doing your
Mhm.
flyers? Who cares? Get started.
Yes, yes, yes.
Get started.
Yeah, but and all of that is just a procrastination tool. Let's be honest. You're scared. You calling it perfectionism, but when it's really fear. Let's be honest. Let's call it out.
Yeah, yeah. And
You
that's when they
know,
hire us to coach them through it. But anyway,
right? Let's do it. Whatever it takes. Right?
whatever it takes. But
You ain't got to take. Look, but listen. Here. But I'm glad you said that because for you and I, like we didn't just start this yesterday,
no,
right?
no.
For I can say for myself, when I got that whole idea to be a motivational speaker, I actually literally started with what I had. I had an old handheld camera, and I set it up and started talking into it, and that took a long time to figure out because there was no training programs, there were no YouTube videos. YouTube didn't even exist when I started that, you
At
know?
all.
And
Mm-mm.
and so I had to take the long way. I had to study mountains of books to figure all of this stuff out. And
Mm-hmm.
now people just now all they gotta do is pay us a few pennies and you cut that learning curve in half or more
Or
just
more.
by being able to shell out a few dollars and have somebody to teach you what took us
Yeah.
uh 10 years 10, 15
Literally
years to
10
learn.
years. 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
So I want to go to our comments. You guys, I just love our audience today, Kel. They really showed up for you. LaDonna says, I tell people all that time, tell that all the time. Yeah, we have to start where you are. You start where you are, use what you have. Thank you, Deech Lynn. Like, that is so important. Um, we have an unlimited supply of resources at our disposal
true,
right now.
true.
Um, And I don't know if you've heard this story, Kel, because we watch each other's videos and lives and stuff. But I want to share this to like encourage you guys. And then I'm gonna end this note on some very, like, if we give our top 5, right? So Literal true story. I never could have thought this true. Sometimes we get a word or someone speaks over our lives or we have a dream about something we want and we think it's going to happen in a certain way, right?
Mhm.
So I knew, like, I've been speaking into existence in my life. I'm an international speaker. I'm an international speaker. I'm an international coach. And even before it was true, I was saying it, right?
Yeah.
And I had this like radical dream, this amazing dream of me going, to Africa, and which I was really scheduled to be on a mission trip in Africa this month in May. Like right now, I was supposed to be in Uganda. Didn't happen,
Wow.
obviously. And
Yeah.
I was really disappointed. And I said, wow. And so sometimes the destination you're trying to get to won't happen the way you think. What happened in the last 30 days, I kid you not, radical transparency, I just started going live and talking about my mistakes. I started saying, hey, here were the top 3 mistakes I made in my business. Hey, here's probably the worst piece of content I ever made and what I learned from it. Hey, here's the fears that I have. And I had never done that before because I'm a recovering perfectionist. I can say that now. I lived it. I can tell it. And
Yeah.
I was like, I started talking about it. And I'm saying this because I know that this is going to affect somebody that's listening right now. I just started turning the camera on and talking. And I was putting these videos out. And here's the thing. Telling your story, you talked about this earlier with Steve Harvey and then with yourself. People were watching those videos, and one person in particular, another coach, international coach, she's in Trinidad and Tobago. You ever seen somebody like go like a whole bunch of your posts and you're like, who is this person just liking all my stuff, right? Don't
Yeah.
ignore that. Like, everybody ain't crazy, y'all. Some people are really trying to show you love and support, and we talk ourselves out of it. So I slid into her DM. I said, hey sis, thank you. First of all, if people are showing you that much love, stop like being all weird and crazy about it. Speak back to people like the internet is truly a place where we can cultivate relationships. Like, I've never met you in person, and this has totally been an experience of growing relationships through video and sharing. So
Yes.
this
Yeah.
particular coach is in Trinidad and Tobago. She said, hey, I love your content. I want you to share your message with my community. I said, all right. I didn't go vet her and look at how many tens of thousands of followers and all that. I just said, yeah, I'll show up. And I asked her the same. I said, well, will you come speak and maybe share a video with my community the same way you and I did, right? And I'm telling this story for a reason. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. Kelvin, you're in the metro Atlanta area as well.
Yeah.
Here's a coach. Now, there are people in my vicinity who, in my proximity, who I can walk
Mhm.
on my door and work with and drive across town and work with, who I have had to chase down. Telling your story will take you from chasing to attracting. My content
Mm.
attracted the international exposure I wanted, the international connection I wanted. It was
Yeah.
authentic and it got her attention and it made her stop and watch. Well, after knowing her for just a few days, we do a webinar together. We had a really good turnout for it. But what I wasn't prepared for, Kelvin, was when the webinar went live, I saw people from South Africa, from Congo, from Trinidad and Tobago, from the Bahamas, from Bermuda, and I was like, "What the what?" Like, I just went international and I hadn't even left my home office.
Wow. Wow.
And I was mad, and I was like, God, you said you'll give me Uganda. He said, yeah, but I just gave you 5 other countries. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I'm
Yes.
telling you this because the one thing you're asking for, your story is the gateway to that, man.
Yeah. Yes.
It's
Yes.
true story. I couldn't have
It
made this
is.
up. You could not have told me that I would have
Wow.
global influence, and I have not left my house. I'm sitting here with
Yeah.
house shoes on. I ain't even put no real shoes on. And
Yeah. 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 But you know what? What I hear is that like it, but it came from that radical transparency,
radical
like
transparency.
just being honest about your journey and the
Mhm.
dirt. Now, I want to tell you, it's when you're building a brand, you really don't want to talk about your dirt. You know, like you really don't want to
It doesn't
talk
feel
about
good. It don't
your
feel
failures and
no.
and you know, look, I know therapists, relationship therapists
Uh-huh.
who've been divorced a couple times. Okay, and
And that's the
um,
story they need to be telling.
that is the story they need to be telling. And they come to me and it's like, yo, Kel, let me just be honest. Like sometimes I'm going through the same thing the people that I'm counseling
Ah,
are going through, and it's hit me hard. but you know what? I know this is my job and this is what I got to do. And but maybe I'm thinking about talking about something over here, and I'm like, no, 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 no. You need to be talking about that thing that you can talk about in your sleep if you needed to.
Ah, come
For
on.
somebody, yeah, look, for somebody, I want to just give you a little tip to get started.
Give us
That
your
thing,
tips. Mm-hmm.
that thing that you can talk about in your sleep. Somebody could wake you up at 4 a.m. and you can tell that story like like it would just run out of you like water because it's so much a part of who you are. That might be what you need to start with by telling your story. Share that.
Wow.
And listen, the more painful it is and the more
Whoo!
embarrassing it is, the better it is.
One more time. The more painful it is, the
The
better it
more
is.
painful it is and the more embarrassing it is, the better it is. Because people want to get that feeling that you're like them. Or even
Mhm.
worse, that you're worse than them. That's why we watch reality shows. So we could be like,
That's
sheesh.
true. Oh my
I,
gosh, that's so true. We
yeah,
watch it to see like, and who are these are the celebrities where we're like, oh, they must have amazing lives. And it's like, oh, they crazier than my family. We watch
right,
other people's crazy.
right. That we love it. We love it. And so, but it makes us feel like, well, maybe we're not so bad after all. But if you don't share the dirt and the uncomfortable places, you can't really give your gift the way that you need to, and people can't receive it.
Wow. The more painful and embarrassing it is, the better.
Tell that. That's it. That's the story that you need to be telling. And people are they're waiting for someone who's not perfect. Some of y'all you tell the perfect story, but you don't tell the imperfect story. But
Yeah,
but but
man.
you know what I told you about the brick to the face, the story in the beginning of the book.
Bam. Yep.
That's the reason why people gonna keep reading the book. They don't want to hear all. Look at this particular author I worked with. She was good with the finger wagging and what you need to do, girl, and what you need to do, and you need to, and you need to. I was like, you know what? Hold on. Let's pick up all of the preaching
I'm
you
leery
do.
of those people because what happens, what's that movie Soul Food when they say you got one finger pointing this way and you got like three fingers and a thumb pointing back at you?
Yeah,
Like, don't tell me what I need. Tell me what you've been doing. What you doing?
right. So all we did was pick that all up and put it towards the back of the book because people do want to know how to solve their problem. They don't mind hearing your preaching, but they want to see
Mhm.
your life first,
Ah.
and then they'll listen to your preaching. They want to
Mm.
see the production before they hear the preaching.
Oh, guys, this is good. Oh, I feel like this could be a series. Y'all are killing me in these comments. Listen, they having a whole dialogue about, girl, I gotta get my story out. Samantha and Deechlyn, y'all are phenomenal. I'm just loving your commentary here. Deechlyn said, "Me too, Samantha. I stopped because of the backlash from my family." Um,
Mm,
yeah, family backlash is real. Friend backlash is real. Yeah, some of your friends and family can't handle it. Why? Because telling your story is a part of deliverance, and deliverance is telling the truth. And now, when you're telling the truth, you're free, and they're not.
mm, truth, fact.
Dee said, "I would." All they can say is sure, no, right. I'm talking to myself too. You know what? And people do have short attention spans, but you know what? They do pay attention when you say something that resonates.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
say, we give them something real to listen to, then maybe they'll pay attention.
Yes, they will. They're waiting. They want someone to listen to. And listen to this, Melissa.
Mhm.
I've been telling my platform builders group, the group that I'm working with, building their
Yeah.
brand from scratch. I've been telling them. I said, listen, and I've been telling other people too around them,
Mhm.
even in the mastermind,
Mhm.
that given what we're going through right now, this is the time for you to learn to tell your story and to
Yep.
begin the process of building your brand from your
Now,
story. This is the
now
time. The
it's
the
open
I'm
season.
listen. I'm talking to my therapist friends, and their books are packed already.
Mhm.
Right? They can't even take any more
Yep.
appointments because people are in this pandemic, coming out of this thing, and they don't know what to do. They got
Yep.
these new thoughts, these new feelings, these new ideas, and
They're a
they
whole
don't
new
know.
person.
They're a whole new person, and they don't know how to navigate their old life with the new person. And so
Ooh.
they're looking for somebody to follow. That's where I'm going with this. They're looking for somebody to listen to. They're looking for some voice to lead them out of the stuck place where they are, so that they can get productive into their new life, because they got a new life from this point.
Wow.
You know, some of those jobs that they worked at that they hated, they're never going back to because those jobs shut down for good,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So now you got a new life and a new world to navigate, and people are looking, and they're going even more so as these months go on. They need to hear a voice with a story that has turned, look, not just a story, but has built a brand around the story. And now you are somebody to follow. It's okay to have a story, but unless you package the story,
Yes.
that they can't follow you without a package. Look,
Ooh.
I gave that analogy the other day about bleach. When you go to the supermarket, you look down and you need to buy bleach. You're not buying the bleach with no label on it. Okay, you're not buying the bleach with the generic black and white label on it. You're going to the Clorox, and right now, if you can't find, if you go to the store, you can't even find no Clorox on the
No, you
shelf,
can't. Mm-mm.
right? And that is because Clorox is the brand that tells
Clorox
you
brand. Mm-hmm.
we're going to get your clothes white, we're going to get your clothes clean, and but it doesn't happen without a brand. Bleach, you know what? The bleach that's inside is probably the same as all the others,
It
right?
is.
But they created an attractive brand with
Wow.
colors, with symbols, with font, with commercials, all of that to support the idea that we are the person that you need to be listening to, that you need to have to clean your clothes. And so it is with creating your own brand, your own speaking brand, your own thought leading brand. You need to be the only person that people think to use when it comes to the area that they need. And that
Wow.
happens
On
with
that
brand.
note, you need to be the person that people think to use. And if I can put a stamp on that, as the answer. Your
Yes,
story, packaging your story makes you an answer.
yes,
You
yes,
need to be the person in prime location and prime
yes,
positioning by your packaging, okay?
yes,
To be the answer. Your story makes you an answer. Kelvin
yes.
Troy Johnson, brother, you are amazing. Y'all give him some hearts, some likes, some love. Boy, this has been one phenomenal virtual cup of coffee today. I'm so honored to share space with you. I thank you for your time. Any final thoughts, words, and tell the people how to stay connected with you and your community for not only Love Coach Atlanta, but also on building their platform.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So listen, you guys can follow me. I love this work. I love sharing, and just my final thoughts on this
Yeah.
is, um, you've got one life to live and a short time to live it. You've got a story inside of you that people are waiting to hear. If you don't tell it, it won't be told. If you don't share it, it won't be shared. And if you leave this earth and leave that story inside of you, somebody's life won't be blessed, which is probably the whole reason you showed up. What
Yeah.
One of the worst things you can do is to die and never know why you were born in the first place,
Ooh. Or to know and never do it.
or to know and never do a doggone thing about it. I think that might be double
That's
worse.
worse.
To know that you have a gift, know that you have a talent, know that you have a word inside of you, a message inside of you, and you never actually did anything to bring it to life. That would
That's
that
good.
would be a sad thing. So what I've done, you guys, is I've created this class. I talked about it briefly. It's called the Platform Builders, a small group coaching class. I'm taking people from scratch, just some ideas, and they talk about the passion that they have about it. And in the group, we are helping them build their ideas, the colors, the whole brand from scratch.
Wow.
And I'm willing to. We had an introduction last week, our first class. You know what? I'll open the class up to somebody here, Melissa, if they're ready right now.
All
And
right,
and listen
guys,
to this,
here the call to
Melissa.
action. This is a platform builders group on Facebook, private
It
group.
is. Yes, it is. And but the private group is off of Facebook. But you can inbox me for the info. I'm taking it. We're doing it from scratch, and we're going to help somebody to get that story out and to build a brand around the story. Now, here's the thing: you have to take action today. Look,
Right
um,
now.
if you catch this replay with beyond 24 hours, you won't be in this class. I won't let you in. I shouldn't even be letting you in
Matter
now
of fact,
because we
after
already started.
midnight. So catch the replay. So I'm putting a call to action out. I'm gonna do you one better. I'm gonna support um you, Kel, and your initiative because I believe in it that much. Guys, I'm sending this out to my Activation Nation community. Take advantage of this. Tell your story. Tell your story. I'm sending this out. You have until midnight tonight to catch this for my YouTube followers and for Facebook followers. It's going out to Activation Nation, also to Platform Builders community, and those of you in between who are listening. The
Yes,
challenge is
yes.
out there. Every good coach gives you a challenge and an assignment. So you got two coaches. You got a double whammy. Sorry.
It's all
Accountability.
good.
It's time to
It's
take
all
action.
good. And the course, it's a 3-week course. We just meeting twice a week, and it's inexpensive. It's just $149
Good enough.
for
All
a
right.
3-week course as we take you through the process. We meet twice a week, and we're drilling this thing down and helping you to be an inch wide and a mile deep as being the only person in your category. So
Heard it.
inbox me about that, and you guys can catch me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter doing my Love Coach Atlanta work. I love it. I love talking about relationships, love, and I've got a YouTube show called Secrets of the Mind of a Man,
All
where I
right.
talk
I'll be
about
tuned
how
in.
men think. Yes, yes. I get into how men think about relationships and why men do the things they do and all of that good stuff. So you can catch that on YouTube, Secrets of the Mind of a Man. And reach out to me and let me know that you saw me here, and we'll
Yes.
get it going. We'll make it happen.
Thank you so much, guys. You all are amazing. Thank you for joining us for today's virtual cup of coffee. I'm your girl, Melissa D, Coach Mel. Make sure that you stay connected with our platform with the Activation Hour. Follow me and join my community at the Activation Hour Coaching and Consulting. You can also join us in my private group. Make sure if you subscribe to my YouTube channel or Facebook, I have Activation Nation. We're on a mission to activate 1,000 people to telling their story, live on purpose, and maximize their income. Guys, make sure that you're also following so that you can catch the latest episodes of the Activation Hour podcast and all other platforms where we serve others with content and information. This has been great. Kelvin Troy Johnson, much respect. Thank you to you. And I can't wait to see all the great stories coming out of Platform Builders. Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Thank you
right,
so
guys.
much.
I'll see you next week. Same time, family. Have a great day. Go be great and stay activated.